joined us today. And a very special thanks to
Kindly bear with me for a minute. It seems like a technical glitch. Please wait for a moment. I think there is a technical glitch.
नहीं, आप शुरू करिए, उसके बाद फिर मैडम जुड़ जाएंगे अगर जुड़ना होगा वेबिनार. शिवाजी भास्कर से कहिए.
Okay, okay.
Don't delay it.
Yes. Now I would like to invite Dr. Shivaji Bhaskar sir, Assistant Professor, School of Foreign Languages, and coordinator of not only Korean language, but Japanese and Russian as well. May I request him to, for the introduction of today's webinar. Over to you, sir.
Before Shivaji says something, I'm terribly sorry that I got disconnected. We were just talking about the benefits of going online, but this is one of the drawbacks of going online as well. I'm terribly sorry that I was interrupted while trying to welcome all of you. And as Navneet had mentioned earlier, the relations between Korea and India are not new. They go back a very long time ago, and they are not just cultural, but trade relations as well. And today, especially, we do know of Korea because of the great industries that we have here. Many of us drive cars which are made through Korean collaboration. And of course, the cultural values, the ties that bond are those that have their roots in culture. And Navneet did mention the princess from Ayodhya, which I had mentioned in the little concept note that I had shared along with the Google links. And these kind of ties are the ones that bind us together. And I'm very happy that we are able to bring together people who think alike, people who have the same kind of cultural values, who have thoughts about culture and the shared history between the two countries. And I'm extremely happy to be welcoming all of you here today, and our Pro Vice Chancellors, all the heads of schools and divisions, and all those from the regional centers who have joined us here today. Thank you so much, and a very, very warm welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now, again, I would like to invite Dr. Shivaji Bhaskar sir. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Navneet. Annyeonghaseyo and namaskar to everyone. As India assumes the G20 presidency, it starts and it is driven by a passion, one earth, one family, and one future. It is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is one family. Similarly, in IGNOU, we also derive the same notion, and we conceived an idea where we will be planning and organizing a series of webinars. In the very first webinar of the Korean Studies, titled Indo-Korean Historical and Cultural Ties, today we are with you. I'm immensely happy and glad that we have the stalwarts from various fields. Dr. Vinay Sahasrabudhe sir, आपका बहुत स्वागत है सर. डॉक्टर सचिनंद जोशी जी, आपका बहुत स्वागत है सर. एंड मिस मिन जोंग किम, आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है. I'm really happy that way back in 2018 we started these certificate courses in Korean, I, as a program coordinator of these Korean language programs in IGNOU, along with the directions of our director, Professor Malti Mathur, and my young and dynamic colleague, Dr. Navneet, is present here. We have started this great beginning of the Korea-India relations. Now, I am very much sure that today, with this webinar, as we will be having the eminent scholars, Dr. Vinay Sahasrabudhe will be speaking on India-Korea culture and history. Dr. Sachinandan Joshi will be speaking on India-Korea cultural ties. And we will be immensely benefited by the remarks from the Korean embassy representative here. I wish a huge success to this very first webinar for the Korean studies. Thank you, Navneet. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Continuing with this, may I now request our PVC Professor Sumitra Kukreti ma'am to deliver her special remarks. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Navneet. Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Nageshwar Rao ji, distinguished guests Dr. Vinay Sahasrabudhe ji, President ICCR, Dr. Sachidanand Joshi ji, Member Secretary, Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts, Ms. Min Jong King, First Secretary, Embassy of Republic of Korea, my fellow Pro-Vice Chancellors, Director SOFL, Professor Malti Mathur, directors from other schools, RDs, and all the faculty from SOFL. Good evening to one and all. I'm very much delighted that today School of Foreign Languages is organizing this webinar on Indo-Korean historical and cultural ties. While looking back at the history, we find that Indo-Korean relations are very old. A famous Korean visitor who was a Buddhist monk visited India in the 6th century to learn Sanskrit, and another Korean monk visited India in 8th century to acquaint himself with the language and culture of the land of the Buddha. India and Republic of Korea have bilateral relations since long time. The year 2030 is thus a landmark year marking 50 years of relations between India and the Republic of Korea. Both the countries honor the teachings and legacy of Buddha. There is free trade agreement between the two countries. The impact of cordial relations is seen everywhere. It is reflected everywhere in the popularity of Korean music, taekwondo, or the popularity of Samsung products. All these narrate the same tale. Many universities and institutes across India offer programs in Korean languages, and IGNOU also offers certificate in Korean language and culture, which is very popular among the students. So today we have 3 stalwarts amongst us as our distinguished guests. I'm thankful to them for sparing their valuable time for this event. We are more than eager to listen to them. I'm sure their inputs would be immensely helpful for us to explore the Indo-Korean historical and cultural ties. So at last, I congratulate Professor Malti Mathur, Director, SOFL, Program Coordinator, Dr. Navneet Kumar, and Mr. Shivaji Bhaskar for this academic endeavor. I convey my best wishes to this school. Thank you. Over to you, Navneet.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your insights on the various aspects of Indo-Korean relationships. We are very thankful to you, ma'am, for your kind words. Now, I would like to invite Ms. Min Jong Kim, First Secretary, Embassy of the Republic of Korea. May I request her to deliver her remarks? Over to you, Mrs. Kim.
Thank you. Distinguished academics, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for inviting me today and your kind hospitality. As introduced, I'm Min Jong Kim, First Secretary of the Korean Embassy in New Delhi. Actually, I'm newly posted to India. I came here last week, so I'm really a newcomer. But I'm genuinely honor to be invited to this webinar and have the opportunity to address to you. Today, I would like to talk about the past, present, and future of Korea-India relations. Some of you already mentioned about the famous story of the marriage of an Indian princess to a Korean king, King Kim Suro of Kaya Kingdom in the southern part of the Korean peninsula. India and Korea also actually share a painful history of colonial rule, the struggle for independence, and then the joy of freedom after World War II. During the 20th century, Korea fought against Japanese colonialism and India against British, which led to a natural sympathy among our people to each other. Well, after independence, India played an important role during the Korean War. So on June 25th, North Korea, 1950, North Korea invaded South Korea, leading to a full-scale Korean War that lasted for 3 years. India was one of the 22 countries that joined the international efforts to keep peace on the Korean peninsula. So in commemorating India's participation in and contribution to the Korean War, the two governments inaugurated Indo-Korea Friendship Park in New Delhi in March 2021, which I've never been before, but I will be definitely in the near future. It has become a symbolic place for the two countries' friendship and cooperation. With such a long history and deep friendship, Korea and India entered into a new era of a dynamic relationship with the establishment of diplomatic ties in 1973, which welcomes its 50th anniversary this year. Given the complementary nature of their economic and industrial structures, Korea and India are natural win-win partners. As our two countries have made economic developments, so have our bilateral ties. Our relationship was elevated to special strategic partnership in 2015, and our bilateral trade volume has grown more than 1,600 folds from $14 million in 1973 to 27 billion in 2022. We still have the potential to expand our cooperation in the future, especially in terms of implementing the Make in India policy. Korea can be the best partner in diverse areas, such as automobile, steel, chemicals, IT, startup aviation, and the defense industry. Bilateral economic exchanges are only set to grow further with the conclusion of the ongoing negotiations on CEPA, Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreements. Our economic partnership is already dynamic, but there is still vast room for further development. When we look at the major export items of the two countries to each other, for example, Korea exports iron and steel, semiconductor, vehicles and its parts to India, and India exports mineral fuels, mineral oils, and aluminium. Korea is Asia's fourth largest economy with advanced technology and competitive manufacturing sector. India is Asia's third largest economy with world's largest youth population. With this huge potential for synergies based upon global competitiveness and mutual complementarity for our economies and industries, India and Korea will be ever closer partners in the future. We also have to look at the political and strategic aspects of the bilateral relations. Our government recently released its first Indo-Pacific strategy called Strategy for a Free, Peaceful, and Prosperous Indo-Pacific Region, and we emphasize the need for greater strategic and practical cooperation with India. When our president, Yoon Suk-yeol, spoke to Prime Minister Modi over the phone call last year, he addressed, quote, "Our special strategic partnership should be further enhanced and developed, and let us expand the horizon of strategic practical cooperation between our two countries as we share the values and philosophy of liberal democracy," unquote. And people-to-people contact and cultural exchanges are actually becoming the backbone of the Korea-India ties. Many Indian universities, including IGNO, I believe, offer Korean language courses to meet the growing need of Indian students. The Korean wave has captured the imagination of Indian youth. K-pop, K-dramas, K-movies, and so on have become increasingly popular with Indian youngsters, and Korean youths are also fascinated by Bollywood, yoga, Indian cuisine, and other aspects of Indian culture. This has enhanced mutual understanding and friendship between our two peoples a lot. Looking back at the long journey we have made over the past 5 decades, It is clear that we have achieved a lot and we have much to celebrate. At the same time, we have much more to do to realize our full potential. I'm genuinely pleased that our two countries celebrate the Golden Jubilee of diplomatic ties this year. I believe our partnership remains as strong and vibrant as ever and will continue to grow for the next 50 years and beyond. And I really congratulate you about launching this first webinar on Korea-Japan historical and cultural ties. And I wish all the best and success to this event. Thank you very much.
India and South Korea's relations are both a result of and driven by people-to-people interactions. As time went on, both nations became closer because two intercultural relations and the coordination of their foreign policies. Indian and Korean people are interchangeably exchanging goods and ideas. Such exchanges are fostering closer relations between Indians and Koreans to further their foreign policy, connecting through common interest, bridges, cultural boundaries, fostering strong national bonds. In recent years, the world has witnessed, as Ms. Kim already has mentioned, a powerful Korean cultural wave, that is Hallyu, worldwide, including India. Its popularity is rising with every passing year in India. South Korea is one of the nations committed to being the world's largest pop cultural exporter. In India, Hallyu has greatly increased in popularity since its emergence as a pop phenomenon in 2006 and 7 with the K-dramas and K-stars. The Embassy of Korea is also playing a crucial role in designing and processing the Korean program in SOFL IGNOU. We are really thankful to the Embassy of the Republic of Korea. Thank you so much for insights on past, present, and future of India-Korea relations from 48th AD, Korean War, Korea-India Friendship Park, bilateral aspects, and so on, till present. Now, at this point, we will hear from Adarniya Dr. Vinay Sahasrabuddhe ji, Honorable President of ICCR, who will shed light on India-Korea culture and history. May I request Adarniya Dr. Vinay Sahasrabuddhe ji to deliver his insights.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor of the Indira Gandhi National Open University. Also, the organizers of this particular webinar, especially Malti Mathur ji, Dr. Sachidanand Joshi ji, other fellow panelists and distinguished speakers, and participant ladies and gentlemen. It is a practice to say that it is an honor to be speaking in this kind of a seminar, but not just as a practice, but I sincerely believe that to be able to join this seminar, this webinar, and to speak and share my perception, my ideas, and my assessment of the Indo-Korean relationship, especially on the cultural front, is truly a privilege and also a pleasure. India and Korea are two countries that have unique histories and culture, but the interactions between the two can be traced back to, and this was referred to here, back to the 4th century, when Indian traders first arrived on the shores of Korea. These traders brought with them not only goods, but also knowledge and insights of Buddhism, which was soon adopted as the state religion of Korea. The spread of Buddhism, as everybody is aware, has led to the establishment of many temples and monasteries in Korea, which in turn became centers of learning for the entire Korean population. One of the most important symbols of the relationship between India and Korea, as we know, is the lotus flower. In India, the lotus is a symbol of purity, enlightenment, and divinity. The lotus also holds a special place in Buddhism, where it represents the teachings of Buddha. In Korea, as I'm aware, the lotus is also a symbol of purity and is often depicted in Korean art and literature. This is because the lotus flower grows in muddy waters and yet emerges clean and pure, just like Buddha's teachings that can lead one to enlightenment even amidst the struggles of our day-to-day life. The cultural exchange or the cultural ties between India and Korea have not just been limited to religion, but also art, literature, and importantly, philosophy. One of the most famous examples of this is the Korean Buddhist monk Won-hyo, who is said to have traveled to India in the 7th century to study Buddhism. During his journey, Won-hyo encountered a group of thieves who were planning to rob him and also kill him. However, Won-hyo, in his wisdom, convinced the thieves to abandon their evil ways and to seek a more enlightened path in their life. This story has been retold in many forms in Korean literature, as I'm told, and has become a symbol of deep cultural ties between India and Korea. Another important figure in the cultural exchange between India and Korea is the monk Uisang. Uisang is credited with bringing the Avatamsaka Sutra, one of the most important Buddhist texts from India to Korea. The text is also known as the Flower Garland Sutra, and it is considered to be one of the most profound and influential texts in Mahayana Buddhism. Uisang's journey to India and his role in the spread of Avatamsaka Sutra is just one example of the many ways in which the cultural exchange between India and Korea has helped shaping both the countries' spiritual and philosophical traditions. Another example of cultural exchange between India and Korea is the famous legend of Prince Hyo Hwang-ok. According to legend, the princess was the daughter of an Indian king who married a Indian queen who married a Korean king and settled in Korea. The legend of Princess Hyo Hwang-ok is the symbol of the deep cultural connections between India and Korea, and it serves as a reminder of the rich history that the two countries share. In fact, in lighter vein, I would also say that since an Indian daughter had married to a Korean prince, Koreans for us are like the sons-in-laws, and therefore they are the damad of Indians, and that is the stature with which perhaps Indians can look up to our Korean brothers. The exchange of ideas between India and Korea continued all through the centuries. One of the most significant contributions of Indian culture to Korea is the Indian numerals, which are still used in Korea today. The Indian numerals, along with the decimal system, were introduced to Korea in the 14th century and had a profound impact on Korean mathematics and science. Friends, apart from Buddhism, the two countries also have a shared history in the field of literature. Indian literature has always been a source of inspiration for Korean writers. One of the most famous examples of the Korean epic, Samguk Yusa, the book which translates to Memorabilia of the Three Kingdoms is a collection of myths, legends, and historical accounts of Korea's Three Kingdom period. The book was heavily influenced by the Indian epic Ramayana and features many similarities with the Indian epic, including the portrayal of the hero, the use of magical powers, and the theme of love, loyalty, and bravery. In more recent times, India and Korea have continued to strengthen their cultural ties. One of the most visible manifestations of this is the growing popularity of Korean pop culture in India. Much has already been said about this, so I don't think I need to elaborate on this. To further strengthen the cultural ties between India and Korea, both countries have also established various initiatives and programs. For instance, the Indian Council for Cultural Relations has been actively promoting cultural exchange between India and Korea through various programs such as art exhibitions, film festivals, and academic collaborations. Similarly, the Korean Cultural Center in India also is very actively engaging with Indians here. In the coming years, there are several opportunities for India and Korea to further strengthen their cultural, diplomatic, and people-to-people relations. Before I conclude, I would say that there are three things perhaps to which we can pay more attention. These are just suggestions. Firstly, there is a significant potential to deepen economic ties between the two countries. India and Korea have been strong trading partners, and there is scope to increase trade and investment in sectors such as technology, infrastructure, and renewable energy. Secondly, there is a need for greater collaboration in the fields of science and technology. Both India and Korea have made significant strides in the fields of science and technology, and we should ensure that both the countries and people from both the countries are benefited out of this partnership. Thirdly, the two countries can work together to address global challenges such as climate change. To sum up, I believe, as what Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also recently emphasized, that there is tremendous scope for South-South cooperation. And I believe, technically, whether Korea is considered as a part of South Hemisphere or not, regardless of that, I believe all countries in this particular region have huge scope for strengthening their ties in multiple sectors, in multiple ways. And especially India and Korea, who have such a strong foundation provided us by our spiritual traditions, including Buddhism, I believe sky only is the limit. I wish that out of this particular exercise, many more ideas will emerge, and that would shape stronger people-to-people relations between India and Korea. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your encouraging words, especially on Buddhism. Thank you for enlightening us through the teaching of Lord Buddha. Also, unique historical, cultural, and the economical aspects, like the significance of the lotus, Indian numeral literature like Ramayana and Samguk Yusa of Korea, mutual exchanges between India and Korean side, economical ties, etc. Now, I would like to request Dr. Sachidanand Joshi ji, Member Secretary, Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts, IGNCA, to acquaint us with India-Korea cultural ties. We would love to hear from you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you and namaskar. The Honorable Vice Chancellor of Indira Gandhi National Open University, Professor Nageshwar Rao, the Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor, Honorable Chairperson of the ICCR, Dr. Vinay Sahasrabudhe, most respected Ms. Min Jong Kim, the First Secretary of Korea, Professor Malti Mathur, Professor Shivaji Bhaskar, Dr. Navneet Kumar, Dr. Tufail Ahmed, and all the distinguished participants on this panel. It is indeed a great pleasure to talk about India-Korea cultural ties on this important occasion. As we have heard and we all know that India and Korea are celebrating 50 years of their diplomatic relations. This is also an important year because India is holding the presidency of the G20. But the cultural relationship between India and Korea are not just 50 years old. They go back to maybe 1,500 years or more than that. And that is why the importance of India and Korea relationship is very much pertinent in today's perspective. As we have heard from the distinguished scholars, the initial cultural relationship between India and Korea starts with the advent of Buddhism in Korea, which basically went through China to Korea in the initial years, and that is the 369 AD, when the first time the Buddhism entered into Korea, and a priest whose name was Sundo came with a Buddha idol to Korea. That was the first time. But immediately 5 years later, the first Indian Acharya went to Korea, and who was called Ado in Korean language, and he established 2 Buddhist viharas in Pyongyang, and that is the start of Buddhism in Korea. And after that, we have a series of acharyas known as Mallanand and others who established Buddhism in Korea. That was the initial years when India and Korea relations as far as Buddhism started. Other speakers have also elaborated on that, and we have a number of books and articles which tell us about the India and Korea. Coincidentally, in Korea, the spread of Buddhism is basically through 3 kingdoms. The first being the Buddhism of 3 kingdoms, the second being the Buddhism of Koryu dynasty, and third being the Buddhism of Yi dynasty. So in all these dynasties, we have seen that the relationship between the 2 countries have always remained important and pertinent. And that is why, despite of a distance between India and Korea, we have always been culturally very close. Very important thing between these 2 countries is that not only the Buddhism, but our lifestyle, our family structure, our values for the life, they are all very similar. Very important feature is the family traditions in India and Korea, and they resemble quite a lot. Like very important instance that respect to elders, the kind of respect which an ordinary Indian family shows to their elders is quite similar to what the Korean youngsters show to their elders. So that is an important thing, and the kind of moral values that are practiced are very important. Another important thing is the family bonding, which is very important in India and Korea. Like in India, when the parents desire that their children should stay with them, in most of the Korean families also the similar kind of desire is expressed, and normally children stay with their parents and not go for an independent house immediately after they say become little grown up or something like that. So it's the basics of the moral values, the social values, and the social ethos, which is very common between India and Korea. Another important aspect between India and Korea is that other than the Gregorian calendar or the English calendar or the Western calendar, both the countries follow their own calendar also. Like in India, we follow the calendar in Bharatiya Paddhati, which starts from the Gudi Padwa or Shak Samvat. In Korea also they follow a lunar calendar, which is a different calendar than the routine Western calendar. And most of the prominent happenings in the life generally governed through this. since we are talking about the relationship and the cultural ties, it would not be out of the context to mention here about Rabindranath Tagore, who in 1929 published Lamp of the East, which was a brief and evocative poem about Korea's glorious past and promising future. I would like to recite a few lines of that poem. In the golden age of Asia, Korea was one of its lamp bearers, and that lamp is waiting to be lit once again for the illumination of the East. So those were the beautiful words written by Rabindranath Tagore. I would like to mention here that in the year 2017, Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts organized an exhibition on Rabindranath Tagore under the title The Art and the Life of a Cosmopolitan, which was organized in collaboration with Asia Culture Research and Archive, Gonzhou, Korea, and it was held at Asia Cultural Park, South Korea, in 2017. So when we hear about words like this from Rabindranath Tagore, we can imagine what kind of expectations were there from Korea and how these things really flourished over the years. Even when we come to food habits, I think there are a lot of similarities between India and Korea. Since this is an online meeting, I don't think there would be a physical refreshment after this, so it would not be out of context to talk about little food so that it gives us some kind of a nourishment even. So like we in India, mostly we eat rice and vegetables. Similarly in Korea also, most of the Koreans eat rice and vegetables. The kimchi, which is quite resembling to our achar, is also a very common feature between the two countries. Another interesting part is gamja jeon, which is also quite similar to aloo tikki, which is made in India in most of the Indian parts of the country. Another interesting is yaki mandu, which is quite similar to our gujia. Or in most of the North Indian part, when people make gujia, it's like quite similar to yaki mandu. I should be pardoned if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but you can understand my feeling also. And if you see the homemade cooked rice or pulao, it would be something like kimchi fried rice, which is quite similar to these things. So what happens is that when we talk about the values, family values and food and the social values, we see a lot of similarities between India and Korea. Nonetheless, the root always come from the spiritual background, which Dr. Sahasrabuddhe has quite nicely elaborated. But when the spiritual ethos percolates into the social ethos, and when the social ethos percolates into the family ethos, it really, the bond really becomes thicker and stronger. And that is what has happened between India and the South Korea. And this is another opportunity for all of us to strengthen that relationship between India and South Korea. I always say, and people would pardon me for saying this, is that when we talk about diplomatic relationship in those terminology, we often forget about the cultural bonds which continue to flow for years together, that may vary from 1,000 to 2,000, 3,000 years. And what is more pertinent is the emotional bond between the two countries. And that is why the importance of culture is there, because I always feel and very strongly state that geography divides, but culture unites, and it is the power of the culture which brings us together. That is why we are talking about the pop music, which is very popular in India, the Korean pop music, the Korean costumes, which are very popular in India. In our younger days, I still remember when television was very new to India, and so many television companies were floating their products in the market. Korean kits were very popular as far as television is concerned, and we used to feel quite attached to the Korean kit as compared to any other kit. I think people of my age would recollect their memory and find out those kind of instances. What I'm trying to suggest through these instances is that the emotional bond between India and Korea has always remained very stronger, very thick and very dense, and that is why today we are in a position to celebrate our relationship in a very big manner. We expect that in future also the countries remain intact and so closely knit as they have been together. But I must also underline here that there should be enough arrangement for teaching the Korean language in India, which we lack badly as far as the academics is concerned. As India is blessed with so many languages here itself, people are normally getting confused which foreign language they should choose and which is going to benefit their future. I think Korean language has the immense potential to be taught in different universities and institutions through which more and more people get attracted towards that. I would also like to tell another thing, that when our Honorable Prime Minister changed the policy from look east to act east, this was because we were so obsessed with the West that we often forgot the closer relationship and the neighbors or the people who were much closer to us culturally, to acknowledge their presence and respect their presence. Unfortunately, over the years, so far Western dominance has created havoc in our life. But when we see countries like Korea, who have done exceedingly well in all aspects of life, we can realize that basic values of life and basic ethos of culture always takes forward in a stronger manner, which we can learn from Korean people. And I think that is why talking to our dearer ones who are closely connected to us culturally is always better than relying on people who are much far culturally and emotionally. So the bonds between India and Korea must remain thicker and stronger in years to come. We all remember that at IGNC in 2016, when we organized an exhibition, Sarangbang, the Room for Leisurely Life, organized by Onyong Folk Museum, Republic of Korea, and the IGNCA. The moment was really enjoyable, and we really enjoyed the company of the people from Onyong Museum, and by that way we had a huge amount of Korean people, not only Korean people, but people who believed in Korea attending the kind of exhibitions. Such exhibitions and such displays always help in understanding the culture in a better way. I hope that in future also we do more collaborative programs with the Korean embassy and the cultural institutions in Korea, so that people understand more about culture. It's not only about watching a Bollywood film or listening to a pop music, Korean pop music. It is also about understanding each other in a better way, family-wise and socially also. So with these words, I think I must congratulate the Indira Gandhi National Open University for organizing such a wonderful webinar. And I must compliment the Honorable Vice Chancellor, all the distinguished faculty members. At the same time, I also compliment the Korean Embassy for their wholehearted support in this endeavor, and expect that this should not end with this webinar, but this should be a beginning for a fruitful and a very encouraging relationship between the two countries. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Joshiji, I'd just like to add, you said that Indian universities do not offer Korean language programs, but I'd like to say that IGNOU has stepped up and has introduced a certificate in the Korean language, which has been running for quite a while, which is extremely popular. And we have also proposed a PG degree in Korean. So we hope that that will come to fruition very quickly as well. And we don't believe in just speaking about it, Joshiji. We'd like to do something about it. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for being part of us.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words, especially on the relations between both nations through different dynasties and similar etiquettes in the family in both nations. Thank you so much for enlightening us for both for about both follow their both countries follow their own calendar, and especially as you have mentioned, the values of life in the both nations are like quite similar. Now moving ahead with the program, may I request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Nageshwar Rao sir, for the presidential address.
Good evening to all of you. Her Highness Miss Min Jong Kim, First Secretary Embassy of the Republic of Korea. Honorable Dr. Vinay Sahasrabudhe, President Indian Council for Cultural Relations. Dr. Sachidanand Joshi ji, Member Secretary, Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts. My own colleagues and friends. It's a great opportunity for me to listen to distinguished experts, Vinay Sahasrabudhe ji and Sachidanand Joshi ji, and also the comments from the First Secretary Embassy of the Republic of Korea. Lots of insights we have received, and those insights, they are very, very useful for improving the contents, for strengthening the contents of our programs. As Malti ji has rightly pointed out, that we started the certificate program in Korean, and there is a lot of response to that also in our university, because we do have the national spread and also international spread also. At present, 41 countries we have already reached, and the Korean language is also very, very popular in IGNOU also, because we try to be, we are connected with almost all the states where our regional centers are there. But the areas in which we all can look into it, because the theme which was chosen, it is Indo-Korean historical and cultural ties. I am a good listener to have the contents for this particular issue, because when I listened to Sachidanand Joshi ji, he talked about the similarities, the family, the culture, the traditions, Buddhism, family unity, so many things he said, and they all are very, very common in India and the Korea. And that shows the similarities, and that shows the common understanding, and that shows the common pathway in which you all can move ahead. When we look into the religious fervor, Buddhism, it is also 2% of the Buddhists, they are in India, and 2% in Korea also, the same number. So you see that how we are closely connected culturally and historically also. But now, since our is the largest university in the world, having more than 35 lakh learners with us and 38 lakh pass outs, we do feel that there is a need for have a strong educational linkage between the two countries. And that is also possible because in the National Education Policy 2020, now we are treating language as a skill. And this skill is very, very important in almost all our bachelor programs. And we have tried to put all the Indian languages there and including the foreign languages. So through that, the opportunities that are being given to undergraduate students to go for a language. And there, they would like to prefer to those languages where cultural similarities are there, family traditions are there, and also we see that the religious fervor is also the same. And in that context, we really appreciate the concerns and the similarities which are expressed by all the three distinguished speakers. When Dr. Sahasrabuddhe was speaking, he raised specifically three specific areas wherein we all can move ahead. One is the economic relationship, in that we can move ahead. Secondly, he talked about the science and technology. And thirdly, the global challenges. And there also, because of the similarity of our cultures, similarity of our traditions, we all can move together to see that how the cultural similarities between the two countries that can be further strengthened. As Malti ji has rightly pointed out, that we are strengthening the foreign languages. We have already got PG program in French, PG program in Russian, and PG program in Arabic. Things are moving, and we are already announced, she has already announced that we are also having a plan to have the PG program in Korean. Why? Because we want to strengthen those languages, which are very, very important to have much better and much closer cultural ties between the two countries. And therefore, in that pursuit also, we seek the kind support of the Korean embassy. Please help us so that we can have an effective PG program, which may be suited to our own people, as well as it may suit to the requirements of the Korean people also, who might be residing in other countries of the world, or maybe in their own country. Because we would like to put the things in such a way so that the teaching learning process it may become easier. The IGNOU has got a peculiar USP, that is preparation of study materials. And the study materials they have been prepared in such a way so that the self-study of the entire material is possible. And any learner, if he starts reading the book, it is not a textbook. It becomes an invisible teacher present over there. And that improves the teaching learning process. Today is the first webinar to have a basic understanding with respect to the two countries. We are now on the same platform, and as suggested by Sachidanand Joshi ji as well as Vinay Sahasrabuddhe ji, we will move ahead in that direction so that the collaborations can further be strengthened between the two countries. I once again thank both the distinguished speakers and also the first secretary of the embassy, who has spared time for us and given useful inputs to strengthen our relations. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for the presidential address and inspiring words. We are really thankful to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, for not only giving the permission for this webinar, but also for encouraging us continuously to reach the ultimate goal of reach the unreached. Now, I would request Dr. Tufail Ahmed to propose a vote of thanks. Over to you, Dr. Tufail. Please unmute yourself. Yes. Sorry to interrupt you, Tufail, you are not audible. Please unplug your earphone, maybe it will work.
it is not available.
Saying welcome and saying thanks is a very essential part of any of our programs, because they are like they bracket the program together with the basic courtesies. So we had gone through the formal welcomes, and I'd now like to express my gratitude to all of you who joined us today. Sahasrabuddhe ji, Joshi ji, Ms. Kim from the Korean Embassy, Pro Vice Chancellors and the Vice Chancellor for being here with us, and for all those who helped us to make this program a success. And I'm sorry, Joshi ji and Sahasrabuddhe ji, that I hounded you for your time and your date, but that was the only way I could get you on this platform. And I am extremely grateful that you acceded to my perseverance and to my to my nagging, and you said yes finally. So thank you so much, and I do hope that the next time we would like you to be here with us, I would not have to message you and telephone you so incessantly. Thank you so much, and it was really a pleasure to listen to you, because in a very short time, in a very brief speech and presentation, you brought out so many aspects of Indo-Korean relations, from culture and history to myths, legends, stories, and to our very vibrant trade relations, which continue till today. And you talked about industry, you talked about modern culture, and it was also enlightening, because these are certain aspects which you so rightly pointed out, saying that we've always looked towards the West, but this was one time when we actually looked eastwards towards our closer neighbors with whom we share so many of our values. So thank you all very much. Thank you to everyone, to the COE for enabling us to hold this webinar online, and to all the people who have joined us here today. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time and patience. Thanks everyone for coming. This was a fantastic discussion. It was. Have a great day.
This is only the first of our webinars on Indo-Korean relations. So we will continue to have that. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Professor Rao, and thank you, Malti ji. Namaskar. Thank you, Dr. Saab Sachidanand ji.
Namaste, sir. Namaste.
Thank you.